Haunted Big Bird. I enjoy talking about paranormal experiences, so I thought I'd share one of the earliest ones I can remember. The house I grew up in was haunted. Nothing bad exactly ever happened in the house, but we did have some weird occurrences. One such occurrence being my little brother's toys. One toy in particular was a large Big Bird toy that you could put Sesame Street cassette tapes in, and he would move with his mouth and blink his eyes while the tape played. Well, my brother was about 3 years old, and he loved the Big Bird toy, which was fairly large, so it was kept on a shelf across from his bed. One night, it turned on by itself. There was a tape in it, and it started to play. My brother woke up and started crying. Mom heard, went in and turned it off, thinking maybe he got out of bed and turned it on himself. The next day, she took the tape and batteries out. That way, if someone tried turning it on again, nothing would happen. That night, it turned on again. This time, though, the eyes and beak moved and made no noise, since there was no tape. My brother heard it turn on and he freaked out. It was moving and making buzzing noises. It somehow moved from his shelf onto the floor and then moved across the room. My brother began to scream bloody murder and my mom ran in. My brother refused to be in the same room as it. He was terrified. She sat in her room and a few days later, the same thing happened. But my mother refused to get rid of it since it was rather expensive. She wrapped it in a black garbage bag and hid it under my brother's bed, along with some other things to be stored. He found it about 8 years later, when we were moving. Paranormal or not, this is some scary shit. I grew up in a house built back in 1959 to 1960. My parents picked it up in 1995, where they lived for a full year before adopting me in 96. There is no public information on who owned the home before my parents moved in, but the 35 to 36 period of time before they bought it lends itself to having at least 1 or 2 previous owners. My parents never talked about who they bought it from. Anyways, as a kid, I was pretty adventurous. I would go exploring in the attic, and even found a secondary attic not connected to the main one, accessibly only through a hatch in the spare bedroom. Never really went up there, because there wasn't anything interesting. Or so I thought. Maybe I'll revisit it next time around. The one place I did not venture, however, was the crawl space. We have a finished basement with a door leading to the crawl space, which is about 4-ish feet tall. I'm 5'11" and have to crouch like Master Chief to walk around it. Now, I already didn't like the basement very much, and I absolutely hated being down there alone at night. Straight up bolted upstairs when I had to turn the lights off when I cash out for the night. Both the dog I had at the time and my new one aren't and wasn't a huge fan of it either. I'd rarely catch them alone down there. But one day, I was feeling ballsy, I guess, and I decided to go exploring when I got home from grade school, before my parents got home from work. I opened the door to the crawl space, and my dog Travis waited anxiously for me at the entrance. Neither him nor my current dog Rico ever went in there, or even went near that goddamn door. Well, I made my way towards the back of the then gravel-laid flooring, past all the storage bins my parents had placed in there, and rounded a corner by a moderately sized sinkhole. The gravel was lower there for some reason. What I found was a chair and mattress pad with a blanket folded up at its foot, like one might find a pad's facility. I noped the fuck out of there and shut the door. When my mom got home, I told her about it, so she went in, not believing me, and upon exiting, looked as bewildered as I. When Dad got home, he did the same thing. I asked them if they knew anything about it, and they said that they had never seen those things before, but they didn't know how they got there, and that they admittedly not been back to that part of the crawl space in years. They removed the items and never spoke of it again. Edit. There was also a Bible, Protestant I believe, which was obviously not my parents as they are Catholic, sitting on the chairs, as well now that I think about it. Not uncommon for homeless people to find comfort in religion, but hey, maybe the squatter heard some spooky shit too. Now, that is all verifiable fact. What follows are my personal experiences that my parents have, and probably will continue, to deny to this day. Growing up, I'd often notice some weird things. Objects in my room moving from place to place, the place I had left them. I figured my parents just lied when they said that they had not gone into my room or moved anything at all, which is fair enough, right? Stranger, I heard shuffling coming from the kitchen. Well, I chalked it up to my dogs, until he passed, and I continued to hear it from time to time. I would hear cabinet doors opening, with a distinctive magnetic click and creaking of their hinges slowly swinging open. I heard plates rattle or slide. I figured maybe one of my parents were up moving around getting a snack and such, only I am a night owl, and would stay up far later than my parents reading in my room at the end of the upstairs hallway, their room being right by the wooden stairs. Now, for the freakiest part, in my opinion, that hallway creaks under the weight of a human walking on it. I, of course, had learned to navigate it without the creaks, but the sounds of my mother or father walking down it was undeniable. The stairs were even more challenging, as I would have to get on all fours and equally distribute my weight for them not to creak, while during the silent hours of the night, when I was up far past when I should have gone to bed, and when my parents had already been asleep for hours, I would hear that rustling, those hinges open, those plates slide, but never the fridge open, strangely enough. Even more scary, though, were the footsteps in the hallway. I would hear the distinct sound of someone walking with shoes and boots on wooden floors, but the boards would not creak. Granted, my room is at the end of the hallway next to the bathroom. I would often explain it away as my mom or dad coming down to use the bathroom. Late in the night, which sometimes it was, as the light would turn on. I'd hear them use the bathroom and flush, and the light would go off, and I'd hear them return to their room. Only sometimes the light wouldn't go on. The footsteps would stop at my door, and sometimes I'd even hear the slightest rattle of the knob being touched but never twisted nor opened. I'd become hyper-aware, my heart racing and my hair standing on end. In those cases, I'd never hear footsteps return to my parents' end of the hallway. My dogs have also acted strangely from time to time, frequently sitting bolt upright and staring at nothing. Recently, I had an experience, possibly a sleep paralysis-induced nightmare, of Rico and I cuddling until he stood bolt up in my bed, staring at the doorway. I grabbed his collar and blinked, only to open my eyes and see a white figure hovering with no legs in the frame. He got anxious and began to try and escape my grasp, and as I blinked again, the figure began to float towards me. I decided I wasn't gonna take him down with me, so I let him go and he sprinted out of the room. I blink again and I see nothing but a misty, white, unidentifiable face, at which I clamp my eyes shut. I feel my face turn to ice as I black out, waking up hours later in the late morning, after the sun had already risen. The only other memorable occurrence I have is in the basement, this time with me fully awake. I brought my electric bass with me at the time, and its tripod into the basement with me to play while I was bored. The time around, it was mid-afternoon, with nobody else downstairs, not even my dog. I was sitting in a chair on the other side of the room, watching TV nonchalantly, when out of nowhere the tripod bass and all simply fell over, like someone had strongly tapped the head of the bass on the side. Being accustomed to all sorts of weird shit happening, I simply walked over, stood it back up, and said aloud, "You can fuck with me all you want, but don't touch my instruments. Do not do that, you got it?" Never before nor since have I had any problems with my instruments. I have a few more stories, but they're less impressive and more personally upsetting than I like to share. Strange events have been happening in my house after finding a creepy doll. Okay, before I start off, I do want to clarify that I've always believed in the unseen. Not ghosts as in human dyings and coming back to haunt us, but an unseen race similar to mankind. Now, being a Muslim, sorry for bringing religion up, it's a part of our faith to believe in the existence of jinns, a type of sentient being that is invisible to our naked eye. Jinns are not necessarily evil. However, we believe that Lucifer, or Iblis as we call him, it's what's called a shaitan, which is where the word Satan comes from. Shaitan are basically jinns that are evil and work for Iblis. Now, in my opinion, many paranormal encounters are just jinn encounters, because although jinns are invisible to us, many of them have all sorts of different abilities, like shape-shifting into animals, objects, and even human beings. Shaitan, as well as young jinns, oftentimes attempt to scare human beings by moving objects, turning on lights, and taking because they A, find it amusing, or B, feel more powerful when you are scared of them, when we are scared of them, actually. Now on to my story. I am a filmmaker. I love making short films, and a goal of mine is to be creating indie features and owning my own production company. I love all types of films, but for some reason, I always tend to be drawn to the horrors. Maybe it's because of my interest in the unknown, you know? Now, about a couple weeks ago, as I was out getting some food, I walked past the Salvation Army store, which for those who you don't know, they sell used items for very cheap prices that people donate to them and stuff. Beside the store was a small section where they toss out stuff that they can't sell. I decided to check it out to see if there was anything good there. Sometimes you find some good stuff there. And guess what I found? There was. A super creepy toy doll. Now, most people would not want to take a creepy doll home with them, but not me. I thought it would make a great prop for a short horror film or something, so I threw it into the trunk of my car. Fast forward to 2 weeks later, I've made my short film, but I decided to keep it. It might be worth something when I get famous. A couple days pass, it's 3 in the morning at the time, and of course, as usual, I'm busy writing up a script for potential short films. My wife is in bed asleep, and with the exception of my PC monitor running, there's no other lights on in the room. Now, in the middle of my writing process, I hear a doorknob turn, and a door open behind me. I look back to see my walk-in closet door all the way open. Now, I'm 100% positive that it opened by itself, because, we never leave the door open. I get a strange feeling in my gut, at the pit of my stomach, but I quickly ignore it and get back to my writing. I get back to my work as soon as possible. I mean, I wasn't scared, but nothing like this has ever happened to me, you know? As a kid, I used to turn off all the lights in my basement, grab a flashlight, and ghost hunting in my basement. My sister and cousin, who I forced to come with me, thought I was crazy. The next day, I was just cleaning around the house. I just brought my laundry to my room. When I tried to open the door to my walk-in closet, it was locked. I didn't even know that it could get locked. It stayed locked until the morning after. And that very night, at 3 in the morning, as I was playing some video games, I heard another click behind me. The bathroom light turned on by itself. Now, I'm 100% friggin' sure, 1,000% sure, it was off before then. The strange feeling I had 2 nights ago had returned. Just this morning as I was driving to work, I felt a hand grasp my shoulder and nobody else was in the car. Now, I'm not sure what is the cause of all of this, and I do not want to speculate, but I will update the post if anything else happens. I don't know if the creepy doll has anything to do with this. Maybe it's because I'm a filmmaker, my imagination's running wild and getting the better of me, you know? Like the creepy Chucky doll stories and shit like that. I'm currently at work, but I'll post some updates if there is any. Edit. Hey guys, I'm sorry it took so long to give you guys an update. A lot of things have been keeping me busy, so I haven't had the time. Not really a lot happened, but I've been seeing dreams where I'm interacting with something I can't see on a daily basis. Also, I took a photo of the doll. Objects are moving around flatmate's locked bedroom while none of us are home. Initially, we all thought this was one of us pranking the other, but last night, my flatmate who is experiencing this came to me crying with fear and asked to sleep in my bedroom because he's so freaked out by what is happening in his bedroom. Basically, on 4 separate occasions, my flatmate has come home to an empty house, unlocked his bedroom, and neither me nor our other flatmate has a key, and has found that objects have been moved around. For a start, it was just that his pillow had been moved from the headboard to lying askew near the foot of his bed. This guy has the most impeccably clean room ever, and is totally anal about having his bed perfectly made, so it's really noticeable when a pillow or some other thing like that on his bed has been moved. He notices that shit. This has happened 4 times. He's also noticed that a couple necklaces he owns have shifted from one hook on his wall to another on the adjacent wall, although he does admit he may have moved them and forgotten about it. Guess he's not that anal, right? Finally, it was last night. He came home to find his pillow moved once again, and his quite heavy office chair had been pushed over and was lying on the floor. Our flat looks pretty colonial, and was probably built sometime in the 30s or so from the style of the building that it currently resides in. We live in New Zealand, so it is quite an old building, but we haven't experienced anything in the rest of the house, just his room. We're setting up a webcam in his room to try and see if this is one of his mates breaking in to mess with him or something like that, but considering they'd have to get through the 2 locked doors that we have, his locks and windows haven't been tampered with in any way, you know? We're not sure any of them would put in this kind of effort. We're really just looking for a rational explanation for what in the world might be causing this, or some next steps we could take to figure out what it might be. Thanks, guys. Sorry for the wall of text. It's been a hectic 24 hours.